Good morning. Today we plan to do the next unit, and that is the topic of data literacy. I'm taking a pause from the Python part because now we need to continue with the rest of the topics also. So I'm taking up the next topic, which is based on your understanding of data. Okay, now we start with this. First, we move forward with this particular topic, and the end of this would be again presentation of the data using Python, which we call as data visualization. And there we learn about the various graphs we can use to plot our data. Okay. But majorly today we are talking about the importance of data and how exactly the various categories of data is actually taken care of. Okay. So main idea behind this is that data being very, very important, we really have to understand what kind of data do we have, what kind of data we work with, and how do we classify it, how do we extract the important portion of the data and not really indulge in analyzing the ones which are not that important. So overall, we understand the technicalities involved. Okay. So as we know that data is basically the presentation of your facts and figures, isn't it? So anything, whether you have your household, your school, your business, your sports, games, everywhere you have data. Until unless you have information, isn't it? The processed data is what is information. So then what are you doing in that particular area? There must be things happening in that arena and you will generate data. The moment you generate data, we are storing it, isn't it? When a child comes to a school, so we have the information about the child stored as the registration information. Then he pays fees. Then you'll have the fee information. Then he's having his class details, his subject combinations. So every step he's participating in sports. He's participating in other cultural activities. All that becomes your data for that particular student, right? And when I talk about AI for that matter, because we are talking about data here in terms of AI. AI is actually that you're making the machine intelligent, you're making the machine respond to your queries, you're making the machine take decisions for you. When somebody has to do that, he essentially needs data. Okay. So when that data will be given to him, he will be able to work on that. Without that, it cannot be done, isn't it? So data literacy here basically means that you're able to find as well as use your data effectively. Find the data from the reliable source and use it effectively. Not waste your time indulging in unnecessary information, unnecessary data. Okay? And there are certain steps which are included in this process. First is you talk about collecting the information of the data, then you talk about organizing it, checking on its quality, analyzing it, and then understanding the results and using it ethically. So all these are the basic outline processes of your this entire work, which is my data literacy. Now talking about further, first and the foremost thing is that you need to collect the data. See, you are talking about an AI machine which has been given a problem. That this is my problem. Okay. So if he has to do something about it, if he has to make some kind of a decision in that case, give you some output, he needs to have the data regarding that. This we understand. Okay. Now, from where will you collect the data and give it? Or where will he be collecting the data from? If he is somebody that he is able to collect the data himself. There are machines who are like, you have installed a camera. The camera is reading the data himself, reading the faces, reading the surroundings himself, right? To some extent, he's reading that category of data himself. So where from will you be providing the information, the basis of his um, intelligence, which is basically the data. Okay. So we have to decide on the quantity of data which is required. We have to decide on what kind of data you're going to, collect and work on. That's why we say high volumes of data collection is very, very difficult because it's the quality of the data, quantity of the data, everything matters. It is really difficult to do that. Multiple sources are there, multiple areas from where you might have to capture it, load it, sort it, arrange it, and then give it to him. The first thing first we talk about is the primary sources of the data. Now we are talking in terms of two sources, primary and secondary. Okay. The primary sources are going to be those sources um, which you actually do on your own. I mean, by own, I mean that you are actually going to the site, you're actually going to that place, and then you are collecting that information. And secondary, as we see that, which you are doing it by not going to the actual site. What do I understand by that? Okay. For example, I am talking about, I want to know something about Mount Carmel School. Okay, I'm an outsider. I want to know something about Mount Carmel School. Now, my primary sources would be that I actually visit that place. Okay. Or I take a survey sitting in that, sitting in that place or meeting the people who are working there. So you are kind of directly getting in contact with those people and collecting the information. So you are giving a questionnaire to them. You are going and interviewing the students there. You are actually going and observing. You're going through the school and observing people, what they are doing, how they are doing, or how much is the area that you have to play and what games do they offer, how much plantation do they have, where the assembly is happening, कौन से areas है school में. So everything you go observe and you kind of um, work on that particular part, right? That is my primary source. Like here we are talking about these four sources as our primary sources, where we say we conduct a survey. A survey is easy because when you have to collect a huge set of information or maybe collect it from a huge set of people or places, then in that case, my survey comes into play, where we say that from a huge population through interviews, questionnaires, forms, online forms, I collect information. I do a survey. है ना, जैसे हम लोग सेंसस का भी करते हैं, that's a survey kind of a thing. And the population is huge. जहाँ से आपको डेटा कलेक्ट करना है, तो आप अलग अलग तरीके से यू कैन डू इट अबाउट द ओपिनियंस, अबाउट द बिहेवियर्स, about the demographics of that place or area or people, whatever you want to know about them. Then when you talk about interviews, you say that you're doing a direct communication with them. You ask them open-ended questions. You ask them closed-ended questions. कि चार option दिए इसी में से choose करो. Open-ended is when you are giving that person the liberty to answer the way he wants to. And that is your open-ended questions. So interviews you conduct directly. Then you can observe what I was saying, that you go and see what games are there in the school. You actually go and see where the assembly is happening, when it is happening, how it is happening. You actually go and see the music room, the other, things which you have. So you observe, right? So this way you are actually able to collect a lot of information and you're jotting down everything. Fine, you experiment. Experiment means that you are actually doing a cause and effect kind of a thing. You are trying to find out more from the existing setup what you have. If you do this, then what is happening? If you go and talk to a person, is he responding? That kind of a thing. So cause and effect. So these are the basic four things: surveys, interviews, observation, and experiment that you try to work upon. Then you talk about primary sources. When you move on to the secondary sources, now supposingly you are not there, you cannot visit the site. So what you do is you do the rest of the things. What do you do? The first thing and the first foremost thing is you try to access the internet. So what you talk about is you go and try to see their website to know more about it. So that's basically called as, web scraping also. You go to the social media and you try to see their reels, you try to see their videos, YouTube में जाओगे, वहां जाके देखोगे people what comments people have done on their posts, what different posts people have given about the school. So, a lot of other things which you can understand from the social media also. You may have their booklet, journal, newspaper cuttings from where you can study about the school. Then you can have certain satellite data tracking also. Now, of course, it's not applicable to when you talk about a school, but like we are talking about the weather. So satellite data is something which is very helpful. That it is taking the pictures, like current situation when you talk about the pollution. So parali जो हम लोग stubble burning की बात करते हैं. So there we are, satellite gives us a great information about कितना एरिया ऑफ स्टबल बर्निंग हो रहा है या वहां पे कुछ हो भी रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है और there's a change or how the clouds are moving, how things are moving in the atmosphere or things are happening on the Earth's surface. So satellite data tracking also can be done. And there are various online other platforms from where you can collect data. Like here we are talking about websites like Kaggle, GitHub. They have a lot of information, lot of uh, databases about various things. So from there also we can collect the information, right? Yes, beta, you can ask him to join. No problem because there's an independent topic, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So that's how your secondary data sources we are talking about, right? So primary means where you are actually doing it, you can say on one-to-one basis, on a group basis, but more near to the subject which you want to collect, about whom you want to collect. And secondary data sources is basically which you collect from various books, journals, papers, websites, social media, everything, which can be at times false also, which can be at times exaggerated also, right? When you are actually going to that site and watching it, that will be definitely better. So these are the two major primary, your major data sources which we talk about. Okay, depending upon your situation, you'll be collecting the information. Okay. Next, we move on to the next part, which is actually important and little confusing also at times. I've tried to make it as simple as possible. Let's see. Now, here we have to, here we are talking about the various measurement levels in terms of measuring data. Like we talk about measuring the speed of air, measuring the rainfall, measuring the wind, or counting something. So measuring, you are trying to find out ranking, you're trying to find out बहुत सारी चीजें है ना. So we try to classify that in terms of certain criterias. Okay. So that topic is coming under the heading of various levels of measurement. Okay. Now, basic categories are two, which I say as quantitative analysis or quantitative measurement or qualitative measurement. ठीक है. Now, before I move on to the details or the classification in detail, just these two also helps us understand a lot of things. When you talk about the quantitative analysis, as we get the term quantity, okay, so quantitative analysis has majorly your some kind of a numeric measurement where you have some kind of numbers involved, या आप डेटा को नंबर्स में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हो. ठीक है. सो क्वांटिटी, सम काइंड ऑफ अ quantity is involved in terms of measurement. Quality is basically when you talk about behaviors, when you talk about uh, strength, when you talk about some kind of a quality, जिसको हम लोग ultimately at times we're not able to convert it into numbers. So that is one category of basic major classification criteria of your measurement. Okay. And when you see this diagram at the right side of your screen, where you have certain steps given, data is actually the measurement levels are defined in terms of steps you see here. When you see this particular level of measurement, what you find here is we are talking about nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. ठीक है, ये थोड़ा सा पार्ट स्टैटिस्टिक्स का है इसके अंदर, where we actually talk in terms of this measurement criteria. Now this we have to understand these four levels of measurements, and you'll find that it starts with nominal and goes to ratio. ठीक है, नीचे से step by step if we go. So let's see what exactly these things are talking about. We see here one more thing, that my qualitative data is divided up into nominal and ordinal, and quantitative data we have in terms of discrete and continuous. Again, let me give you one example of this discrete and continuous also. When I say quantitative, so I said it's more like a numeric data. You have some quantity associated with it. When I say discrete quantities and continuous quantities, how can I understand this particular thing? Discrete is which is specific numbers. Okay, I have count of students in the class, number of states in the country, very specific numbers. You cannot have 1.5, 7.9. ऐसे continuous values नहीं होंगे. They are specific values. So that part is called as my discrete. Those kind of values are called my discrete values. And continuous values are basically my like speed of measurement. This is a measure correct, like speed of light or weight. ठीक है, so that can be in decimals also. It's a continuous data. वो 4 भी हो सकता है, कभी बढ़ रहा है 4.5, 4.7, 4.9, कभी 3.2. It is like a measurement. It is like a continuous values. All values can be there. Discrete set नहीं है उसके अंदर. उसके अंदर कुछ भी हो सकता है. ठीक है. So that is one categorization which we talk about here. But then let's in detail get into the depth of these four measurement steps: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Let's start with this. This is something little difficult, interesting also, but yes, we need to do it. So I told you just now that my qualitative talks about behavioral attributes of a person, जिसको हम लोग ultimately, good, bad, like I've said here, loud behavior, fair skin, इसको आप quantify नहीं कर सकते. And majorly you have the nominal and ordinal data coming into the qualitative thing, and quantity any kind of a numeric जिसको like ratio में भी जब data को represent करते हैं, percentage में data को represent करते हैं, all that comes under my quantity, which can be exact discrete values also, but it can be in terms of ratios and everything too. So interval and ratio comes under my quantitative category, numerical. Okay. Now I've given you the basic understanding of continuous and discrete. Like here I'm saying discrete is distinct single values. Number of boys in the class, girls in the class, count of anything. how many balls you have, how many cricket bat you have, how many cars have you collected. Distinct, countable. It cannot be subdivided, it cannot be in decimal. Whereas continuous data is एक range में, मैंने बोला 10 to 100 के बीच में any value it can be. And any value के अंदर वो 10.75, 10.9, 10.4867, any value. 30 also, 40 also, 40.0 also, 40.1 also. So any values we are talking about in that range. So that is my continuous data. ठीक है? So is a height, weight, room dimensions. It can be further subdivided, infinitely subdivided, and often includes decimal point also. तो यहाँ पे हम count का word use करते हैं, यहाँ पे हम measure. You never say count the height. Will you say that? No, you will say measure the height, measure the weight, measure the room dimension. And you'll never say measure the number of girls in the class. है ना? Measure the water level of Yamuna. So कुछ चीजें हैं जहाँ पे हम the word measure यूज करते हैं, कुछ चीजें हैं जहाँ पे हम word count यूज करते हैं. So this way you can easily understand the difference between the discrete data values and continuous data values. Simple and easy, direct. Now let's start with these four categories: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. ठीक है? I'll go step by step, then only you will understand the thing. Uh, Starting with the nominal data. Okay. Now, the nominal word is actually, I can associate with this particular term, name only. ठीक है? Now, how do we understand this data? We say that any kind of classification. For example, examples which I've given here, like gender classification. दो values हो सकते हैं, male, female. Married or unmarried or divorced. तीन categories हो गई. Blood group. You know the blood group values. Separate values. Seasons. Winter, summer, spring, rainy. मैं अगर किसी ने मुझसे सीजन्स के नाम पूछे, आई कैन से रेनी, स्प्रिंग, समर, विंटर ऑल्सो, नो प्रॉब्लम. है ना? तो कोई ऑर्डर नहीं है इसका. अगर किसी ने ब्लड ग्रुप्स कौन कौन से उसे आपसे आपसे पूछा, तो यू मे से ओ पॉजिटिव, ए बी नेगेटिव, ए बी पॉजिटिव, ए पॉजिटिव. किसी भी ऑर्डर में आप उसको बोल सकते हो. द ऑर्डर इज नॉट इम्पॉर्टेंट. राइट? सो नॉमिनल डेटा में द नेम्स आर इम्पॉर्टेंट, द कैटेगरीज आर इम्पॉर्टेंट, बट देर इज नो ऑर्डरिंग, देर इज नो रैंकिंग इन्वॉल्व कि ये बड़ा है, ये छोटा है, ये हम लोग ऊपर से नीचे आ रहे हैं या नीचे से ऊपर का रैंक जा रहा है. देर इज नो ऑर्डर देर, ओनली कैटेगरीज. ठीक है? दोज काइंड ऑफ डेटा आर माई nominal data. I've given you some examples here. Coming to the next one is the ordinal. ठीक है? The ordinal में, when you talk about the data, you will have the order. As the name ordinal says, you will have an order. The order is important. ठीक है? अब ऑर्डिनल डेटा को हम क्लासिफाई करें, आई मीन ऑर्डिनल डेटा को हम लोग विल क्लासिफाई डेटा इनटू ऑर्डिनल कैटेगरी when you see that there's some kind of a ranking involved. Like for example, you go to a restaurant and now you are being asked to rate the food. Fine. So there are certain categories given to you, like good, satisfactory, unsatisfactory, excellent. तो ऑब्वियसली वो ऐसे मिक्स्ड, जिस तरीके से मैंने बोला वैसे नहीं होगा. इट विल बी लो टू हाई और हाई टू लो. है ना? उसी ऑर्डर में ही वो डेटा प्रेजेंट किया जाता है, उसी ऑर्डर में ही उसको कलेक्ट किया जाता है. इट्स अ स्ट्रिक्ट ऑर्डर. इट हैज टू बी लाइक दैट. Like position, job position, clerk, supervisor, manager, it has to be that way. You cannot change it. ऐसा कोई भी डेटा है जिसमें आप रैंकिंग दे रहे हो, लाइक यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, you visited a place, so you want to rank. We order food from anywhere or we order things from Zepto, so they rank the service. उसमें भी वो ऑर्डर इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है? So that is my ordinal data. Okay. That's a one basic classification जो आपका क्वालिटेटिव एनालिसिस के अंदर आ गया, नॉमिनल और ऑर्डिनल. Then the other two we have interval and ratio. ना ऑर्डिनल के अंदर भी आपने देखा कि रैंक्स आर डिफरेंट डिफरेंट डिफरेंट. इंटरवल में भी वी हैव डिफरेंट डिफरेंट वैल्यूज. लाइक दे आर सेइंग, sorry, dress size. So you have small. First you'll have excess, then you have small, then you have medium, then you have large, then you have extra large. तो ऑब्वियसली ये ऑर्डर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है, तो ऑर्डरिंग तो इसमें है. तो भाई ऑर्डर और इंटरवल में फिर फर्क क्या हुआ? ऑर्डिनल में भी हम कह रहे हैं कि ऑर्डरिंग है, इंटरवल में भी मैं कह रही हूँ कि ऑर्डरिंग है. द डिफरेंस इज दैट कि ऑर्डिनल के वैल्यूज में द द डिफरेंस इन दैट, what do you call, the different rankings, you really cannot justify that thing मेजर करके. अब गुड और वेरी बैड में कितना डिफरेंस है, कितना, किस तरीके से आप उसको गुड और वेरी बैड बोल रहे हो, कितना बैड में वो वेरी बैड हो गया या कितना गुड में वो वेरी गुड हो गया, है ना. इट इज डिफिकल्ट टू मेजर द डिफरेंस. इफ दैट काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग इज हैपनिंग, then you are putting it under the category of ordinal, where you have a meaningful difference. You can classify the difference कि भाई 0 to 40 हुआ तो मैंने उसको बोला कि उसका साइज स्मॉल, और 40 to 45 सेंटीमीटर हुआ तो आई एम सेइंग दैट द साइज इज मीडियम. तो द differences are very much meaningful. You can extract that differences. You can quantify that difference also, actually. ठीक है, तो यहीं पे वो क्वांटिटी वाला कहानी आ गया, बिकॉज द डिफरेंसेस आर क्वांटिफाइबल. सो दैट इज माई इंटरवल डेटा. ठीक है, बट इंटरवल में एक प्रॉब्लम है कि जनरली यू डोंट हैव अ जीरो पॉइंट. अब किसी का साइज जीरो तो नहीं होगा एज सच, है ना. तो जीरो इज नॉट दैट इंपॉर्टेंट. कोई बहुत लोएस्ट वैल्यू, जीरो इज नॉट द लोएस्ट वैल्यू. सो जीरो का इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं है वहां पे. लाइक यू टॉक अबाउट टेम्परेचर ऑल्सो. टेम्परेचर इज समथिंग कि आप उसको मेजर कर रहे हो. सो इट इज कमिंग अंडर द इंटरवल कैटेगरी एज वेल एज रेशियो कैटेगरी ऑल्सो एट टाइम्स. बट वाई इंटरवल कैटेगरी एंड नॉट रेशियो? बिकॉज टेम्परेचर में देयर विल नथिंग कॉल्ड एज जीरो. Why? Because you'll have lowest value will not be zero. I mean, of course, zero हो सकता है as such, but lowest value is not zero. You have -30, -20, -10. वो उस तरफ को भी you have the values in the negative direction. ठीक है, so जीरो का इंपॉर्टेंस यहाँ पे नहीं है. Whereas in the ratio data, zero has a definite value. Zero is considered as a definite value. Like they're giving the examples here. Number of patients seen. Okay, no patient seen today. So zero is a significant value. Number of sales call made, nothing. Number of sales made, nothing. ठीक है, so zero is a significant value here. Correct. Let's see the interval, ordinal, interval and ratio के comparison तीनों में कहाँ पे वो pointers आ रहे हैं, so that I believe it will help you understand the thing better, because in the exam we are expecting questions where they are trying to give you a data and ask you the category. So nominal is very easy to understand. Main confusion आता है इन तीनों में, ordinal, interval और ratio में. I've tried to classify a little more. Hope it's helpful. Let's see. जो pointers आपको याद रखने हैं. ठीक है. Ordinal में we are saying that ranks, I mean, you have multiple values, categories are there, but sorry, and it is a definite order. लाइक नॉमिनल में देयर इज नो ऑर्डर ऐसा. आप उसको बोलो मेल पहले बोलो, फीमेल बाद में बोलो, दैट्स आल्सो ओके. फीमेल पहले बोलो, मेल बाद में बोलो, अगर आप जेंडर का क्लासिफिकेशन कर रहे हो, देयर इज नो प्रॉब्लम. इफ आई एम टॉक अबाउट टाइप्स ऑफ व्हीकल्स, सो यू मे से कार, बस, एरोप्लेन, किसी भी ऑर्डर में बोलो, डजंट रियली मैटर, है ना. सो दैट इज माई नॉमिनल पार्ट. बट ऑर्डिनल में जब हम आते हैं तो देयर इज अ डेफिनेट रैंक और ऑर्डर. Positive to negative, low to high, high to low. There must be some kind of an order there, whichever way. रैंकिंग होगा कुछ ना कुछ. ठीक है. इट्स ऑफ कोर्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ इट इज अंडर द कैटेगरी ऑफ क्वालिटेटिव. तो क्वालिटी बेस्ड होता है जनरली. फाइन. Quality of nature of the person, behavior of the person, service. You go to restaurants or services. Generally, qualitative. Coming to interval. Interval maybe there's a definite order. Like ordinal के साथ अगर मैं interval की similarity बोलूँ तो there is a definite order in the data. But the way the differences cannot be measured in the ordinal data, the differences can be measured in the interval data. डिफरेंस का एक मीनिंग है, आप डिफरेंस निकाल सकते हो. You can calculate the difference. ठीक है, it can be measured. The differences between the various values can be measured. Like दो ईयर का डिफरेंस 2022 एंड 2025. आपने 5 year प्लान की बात करी, सो यू हैव ईयर डिफरेंसेस. 5 years का गैप है. सो देर इज अ interval, as the name suggests you also, the interval is measurable. There is a significant interval in between the data and it is measurable. Measurable है तो quantitative के अंदर ही आएगा. And zero is not the lowest value or the starting value. हमेशा zero से start हो रहा है, zero पे end हो रहा है. That is not the case. Coming to the ratio now. अब इसमें आपका definite order वाली कहानी तो है ही, मतलब there is a significant in my data, significance of order also, but it has a definite zero value. Zero का भी significance है. ठीक है, like your weight, speed, pulse rate. वेट जीरो क्यों होगा? बिकॉज इफ आई एम सेइंग लाइक स्पेस में आपका वेट कितना है, सो इट इज जीरो, है ना. स्पीड ऑल्सो, स्पीड ऑफ अ कार एट टाइम्स इज जीरो. स्पीड ऑफ एयर नथिंग, जीरो. सो जीरो हैज अ डेफिनेट वैल्यू, मिनिमम वैल्यू. बेसिकली मिनिमम वैल्यू को हम जीरो लेके चलते हैं इसमें. वेराज इंटरवल वाले डेटा में मेरा जीरो वैल्यू मिनिमम नहीं है, लोएस्ट नहीं है. इट कैन गो नेगेटिव ऑल्सो. Okay, so this way now you have to keep these pointers in mind and then classify your data, what has been given to you. Okay, certain examples are there in your chapter. I would like you to, I have given certain examples here. By this also you can understand, like quality of food comes under ordinal, temperature, ear value, shoe size, dress size, interval data, ratios में आपका weight, speed, pulse rate, ये सब आ जाएगा. And many more are there, right? So आपको ये differences दिमाग में रख के डेटा को अंडरस्टैंड करना है और क्लासिफाई करना है. It's a definite question in the paper also. And it's very important to understand the difference. Am I clear with this? What do you say? Is it okay? एक बार और पढ़ो, देखो how much you understand. Then of course we can do more examples to understand and see whether you understand it correct or not. इसमें हल्का confusion also happens. I've tried to include as much as description possible to make the difference very clear. Okay, so go through it once. Now the next thing is the central tendency. So हमने डेटा को कलेक्ट कर लिया फ्रॉम वेरियस सोर्सेस, मैंने डेटा को क्लासिफाई कर दिया कि वो कौन सा कैटेगरी, अकॉर्डिंगली हम उस पर काम करेंगे. Now there's one more thing in statistics, that is my central tendency. Okay, so you kind of summarize, analyze करने के लिए मुझे उसको, उस summary को state करना important है. And under this category we talk about mean, median, mode. They are actually my central tendency categories. We understand these things. We have done it in mathematics also. But just a revision, because ultimately हमें इसको code के through कैसे करना है. There are ready-made functions available in Python, so not that difficult. But how exactly? We need to understand the process too once. So we are kind of revising. So as I told you that your functions are there, और जो library use होगा उसके लिए statistics library use होगा Python में, import statistics. And the functions are mean, median, mode, variance, standard deviation. Variance and standard deviation का significance little different है from the mean, median, mode. So let's talk about the central tendencies first. The functions are given. I'll show you the code also. How do we have to use it? Let's start with the mean first. So mean is nothing but an average value. Sum of the total values divided by the number of entries, number of observations. Like I've given you an example here. This is the set of values. मुझे इसका mean निकालना है. So I'll add up all the values and divide by the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ultimately 80 by 5, 16. That's my mean. Simple instead, average इसको हम बोलते हैं. Coming to the median. Now, median is basically the central value. अगर हम अपने डेटा को डिवाइड करें इनटू 2 इक्वल हाफ्स, तो जो सेंट्रल होगा, सेंटर की वैल्यू होगी, दैट विल बी माय मीडियन. ऑफ कोर्स in this case my data should be in the ascending order or maybe descending order. Both ways it's correct because आपको पॉइंट, सेंट्रल पॉइंट निकलना है, सेंट्रल पॉइंट ऑफ द डेटा. ठीक है. सो यू कैन काइंड ऑफ हैव कि ये सेंट्रल पॉइंट से ये वैल्यूज नीचे जा रही है, ये वैल्यूज ऊपर जा रही है. जब मुझे इस तरह का कुछ करना है, आई टॉक अबाउट मीडियन. फाइंड द central part so that you can divide the group into 2 halves. That's called my median. Like here, this is the data given. I first arrange it into my ascending order. Then I kind of, you can just count the number of elements. Uska half le lo, count ka half, and that will be a central point. Middle data position. Okay. इसको भी हम थोड़ा सा और डिटेल में जब डिफरेंसेस देखेंगे तो आई गिव यू द थिंग कि कहाँ पे मुझे मीन यूज करना चाहिए, कहाँ पे मुझे मीडियन यूज करना चाहिए टू अंडरस्टैंड द डेटा बेटर. एंड द थर्ड कैटेगरी इज मोड. ये भी एक सेंट्रल वैल्यू देने में आपको हेल्प करता है. हाउ? बिकॉज मोड इज बेसिकली फाइंडिंग आउट द पीक्स, दैट इज कौन सा डेटा सबसे ज्यादा रिपीट हो रहा है. Most frequently used data, that is giving my mode. So you can see here age of 15 students of the class is given to you. We arrange it in ascending order and then finally we find out which is occurring most frequently. हर एक का occurrence निकाल लो कि हम एक कोड के थ्रू मैन्युअली भी कर सकते हैं, like step by step instead of using the function directly. हर एक टर्म का फ्रीक्वेंसी निकालो, जिसका फ्रीक्वेंसी सबसे हाई है, that is my mode value. इस समय पीक पता चल जाता है डेटा का, right? So mean, median, mode. These are my measures of central tendency of statistical series. Coming down to the difference once again, comparison. Mean is good when a data set values contain evenly spread data. क्योंकि मीन में अगर कोई डेटा ऐसा होगा या एक दो डेटा भी बहुत हाई या बहुत लो वाले होंगे तो आपका एवरेज बिगड़ जाएगा. ठीक है. जहां पे आप एवरेज निकाल रहे हो वहां पे बहुत ज्यादा हाई या बहुत ज्यादा लो वैल्यू नहीं होना चाहिए. उसमें आपको फिर सेंट्रल वैल्यू नहीं पता चले. ठीक है. मीडियन में एक्चुअली इट टेक्स केयर ऑफ दैट पार्ट वेयर यू हैव एक्सेप्शनली हाई और लो वैल्यूज. वहां पे मीडियन इज हेल्पफुल. उसका एक एवरेज निकालने के लिए मीडियन विल बी अ गुड मेजर अदर देन मीन, बिकॉज मीन में वो बिगड़ जाएगा अगर बहुत एक्सेप्शनली हाई और एक्सेप्शनली लो वैल्यूज में. सो इट्स मोर लाइक इसके अराउंड, अगर लाइक इसी वैल्यू के अराउंड वैल्यू ज्यादा है तो इट्स बेटर टू यूज मीन. उसमें से एक आधा या आउट ऑफ 10 वैल्यूज, लाइक 3 वैल्यूज आर वेरी लो एंड 3 वैल्यूज और 2 वैल्यूज और 1 वैल्यूज वेरी हाई. ठीक है. तो उससे क्या होगा, उसका एवरेज विल नॉट बी द करेक्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द डेटा. तो उसके लिए फिर हमें मीडियन यूज करना चाहिए. ठीक है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स पीक इज व्हेन यू हैव मल्टीपल, सॉरी, मोड इज टू बी यूज व्हेन यू हैव पीक वैल्यूज, बहुत ज्यादा multiple peaks are there in that data. Then you arrange it in a graph, so you'll find multiple peaks are there. So that is where you will go for mode. Like I've given an example here also. It is important to print more of the most popular books because printing different books in equal numbers would cause a shortage of some books and an oversupply of others. है ना. आपको डिसाइड करना है कि कौन सी बुक्स मुझे प्रिंट करनी है नाउ इन माय पब्लिकेशन हाउस. तो आप क्या देखोगे? आप ये देखोगे जो सबसे ज्यादा सेल हुआ उसकी क्वांटिटी आप ज्यादा रखोगे ना, बिकॉज वो पॉपुलर है ना। तो इस तरीके से हर एक सिचुएशन में यू हैव टू जज विच काइंड ऑफ मेजर यू हैव टू यूज, और उसका बेसिक आइडेंटिफाइंग फैक्टर मैंने आपको यहाँ पे दे दिया, so should not be a problem. Now let's come to these two things, variance and standard deviation. Okay. Now, what exactly we are doing here is that आपने average निकाल लिया. Okay. Now, when you have taken the average, how much is the variance of the data? कितना वो ऊपर जा रहा है, कितना वो नीचे जा रहा है, किस किस डेटा में ना. Fine. So